Okay, call the meeting to order at 7:06. First on our agenda is the warrants. I'm looking at warrant V-4 in the amount of $25,928.14. Do I have a motion to?
Motion to approve.
Second. Any questions? Let's go with this one. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Oh, this one here, there already has signatures on it. We're gonna sign this.
That's the second warrant.
Okay.
So what I do is give you a copy of the second warrant. I have a copy, and Joe has a copy. The originals stay together. You'll sign this one here.
Okay.
The next is warrant P-4, and it's in the amount of $22,606.31. Do I have a motion?
Making a motion.
I have a second.
Second.
Any questions? No questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sign that. Okay. You'll sign that one for me. There you are. Okay. Next, minutes of the prior meetings. That was in the pile that I put in front of you. We have the minutes of September. September 14th. September 19th. And September 28th. I believe you are both my fellow board members are getting these emails to them by Linda Torres in advance. Okay. So you've had a chance to review them. Do we have any questions at this time?
No.
Okay. So at this time, I'd like a motion to accept the minutes of September 14th, September 19th, and September 28th.
I'll make a motion.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Okay. I'm going to go just a little out of order here. Next, we took a consensus vote at our last meeting. Do I have a motion to return Class A uniforms to John Alcadino at this time?
Yes, I'll make that motion.
Second,
Third.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. 7-10. Okay. Next, the building. Mr. Dumont, have we done anything as far as the coil and that's right now? That's the only thing I'm aware of. We're working on.
I haven't done anything really on the coil.
Okay.
Because we have to determine what we need, how much we need, what we need,
Yeah.
where we need it, and so on and so forth, and draw up a specification, and then send it out.
Okay.
I really don't know how much there is right off the top of my head.
Right.
And depending on the cost, what the estimated cost would be when we do bidding and so on and so forth.
Bidding is anything over the amount of 25,000? And do you know how much we have left
Well, I think.
from the warrants?
I think the treasurer can.
Mr. Foster, anything?
From the vinyl trim, you have $500, and from the station roof, you have $28,034.60.
Okay. So if to finish coiling, the trim around the doors is over $500, we have to put a separate, or would that come from the roof?
The original roof project was just for the roof and all the repairs to that.
Okay.
The original article for vinyl trim was from fiscal 2008, and you've used 9,500 of the 10,000.
So at this time, to finish the trim, if it's an additional 10,000, let's say, we would have to do another warrant for the spring.
Or you have to pay it out of the building account.
Are we prepared to?
Well, you've dedicated funds, allocated funds toward other projects. You'd have to take away from those projects to pay it out of the building account.
Such as the roof, would we be able to use extra money from the roof
You
for
put an
that?
additional, we now have $76,800 was appropriated for the building account. You have $71,408.06 remaining in that account.
Okay. I guess if we just get a quick quote and get an idea, if it comes back at 5,000 to 10,000, I think we're prepared to handle that right now. But if it's going to be in excess of 10 to 20,000, we'll probably have to put together a separate warrant for the spring meeting. Would be the most appropriate thing. Okay. Anything else on the building that we need to address?
Just the fact that I've called the contractor several times to call the building inspector to inspect the building for what they did. He said he would, but he's been very busy and he hasn't done it, and we haven't paid him until this gets inspected by a building inspector and it's approved. So I don't see any, I don't see any problem in getting it approved, but I do want him to get the building inspector here and him be here so that he can get the check.
And that is an item that normally needs to be approved by the building department?
Yeah, we've got a building permit, so it has to be approved by the building department. And in order for us to know that it's done correctly, the building inspector has to inspect it. So until such time, I told Mr. Foster not to pay the check until such time as it gets inspected. And the contractor knows that. So I talked to him.
Okay. I believe once we notify the building department, they have a certain amount of hours to come out to do
Correct.
the
But
inspection.
what he wanted to do is he wanted to make arrangements with the building inspector so that he could be here,
The contractor.
the contractor,
Okay.
and I would be here also.
Are you all set with that, Mr. Foster? Any questions? Okay. Okay. The next item that I have on the agenda is the drug and alcohol testing. I know some questions have come up, and Mr. Judson is out in his office. I'm sorry, looking right at you. Were you able to get a copy of that for the board, what we currently have?
I have a copy of, I'm not sure if it's the exact contract that I have in there. There is some administrative information in the folder per se.
Okay.
I called the administrator of the program at South Coast today. She was not in, so I
Okay.
left a message on that and plan on following up with her at this time.
Okay.
As I said, the chief has been primarily the administrator of that program all the way through at this point.
Correct.
We need to set up a meeting with them at this point to move forward in appointing a new administrator. Who that might be.
Well, we have discussed that. We'll get into that
That's correct.
about our meeting now in upcoming. Okay. Now, I was informed when I met with Deputy Judson that originally the drug and alcohol testing stated no beer, no wine within 24-hour period prior to showing up. So if you have a beer at 7 o'clock at night with your dinner, you're not able to show up until after 7 o'clock the next day, as long as you didn't have a beer with that dinner or a glass of wine with that dinner. I was informed, which I was not aware of, and I don't know you were on the board if you were aware, that that has been relaxed, which is my intention. I think that's a bit excessive, that if somebody had one beer or two beers with dinner and the alarm was pulled at 3 o'clock in the morning, there's no reason why that person should not be showing up at the fires.
I believe it should be whatever the legal limits are.
I
Is it a beer
do
an hour,
agree.
something like that it is?
I agree.
After an hour?
So what I'd like to do is get the current policy, have it reviewed, and get some recommended changes for this board to keep the policy going, keep the program going, but bring it into a more realistic light. So that's what I'd like to do going forward, if that's okay with my board. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the computer issues. Last month we were given some information for our servers. Right now, Mr. Estachio takes care of our computers, and we are in need of some upgrades. He has given you some paperwork here, requests. We have one particular item that we need to act on relatively quickly because we are getting a state price for it, and that would be the Raptor printer. We're getting this item for $500 if we go and pick it up. The Raptor printer, from what I understand, is the printer that is used to make the men's IDs, and we can get that for $500 at this time. That could cost us up to $25,000.
How do we get them done now?
The way they're being done now is he prints them off, and he does it manually. He laminates them manually. I don't have an example. Do any of you guys have an example of your ID cards with you right now, or they don't come out quite as, I don't want to say quite as professional. They come out rather amateur, and they don't hold up. Now these are not just IDs that are used here for us. You can see how it looks. If somebody tried to present this at a bank for ID or anywhere else, people would look at it and look like they made it at home. The printer that we're speaking of is the official printer. If any of the guys are down in New York City and something happened like 9/11, they could show their IDs and jump on a truck and get right to work. There would be no doubt. I hate to think what would happen if the guys were in New York and tried to present this to any type of establishment, to any of the stations there.
Now, where's this going to be set up in the office?
This would be set up downstairs in the cage area. It would replace one of the printers that are there. So at this time, I'm looking for a motion to appropriate $500 from support of the district for this printer.
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I just have one question.
Yes.
Does any other department have a printer like this?
I did not ask that of Mr. Estachio, but I believe all the departments, other departments have that also.
I believe that we're pretty much the dedicated department that will have it.
So if we got that, we would be able to assist District 2 and District 3
Yes,
in that.
correct.
Okay.
Okay. That's fine.
Okay. So I have a motion, I have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The next item on the issue is $600. This is the dispatch computer issues. This is a letter from Gary Soers from the Dartmouth Police Department. You have that email as one of the emails that he gave you. And this fee would be basically to get on the police dispatch unit. Show your dispatches, include the fee. You can read the letter right here. Unfortunately, Mr. Saccio is working tonight, and this is a $600 license, and it's $25 a year for maintenance. And basically,
Mr. Chairman, if I could clarify.
yes, that would be great.
Is provide us basically with a dedicated monitor, which we already have in the radio room at this point in time, and will give us a continuous display precisely what the dispatchers are looking at and what the officers are looking at in their cruises. So when our dispatchers come in and so forth like that, if there's information relative to an EMS call, an accident, a rescue, and what have you, the exact information that is transmitted to the cruisers and what have you will be on display, so that it'll assist our dispatchers in having a little bit more readily available to them exactly what's occurring, rather than having to rely on the radio or communications. It'll be a continuous display on the monitor in the radio room, which is set up immediately in front of where the dispatchers currently sit. That's a one-time license fee of $500, I believe, to get us licensed.
$600.
$600, and then it's approximately $25 a year in terms of anticipated maintenance fees. I believe the other two districts at this time are also entertaining possibility of getting involved in that. And that was recommended through the police department for enhanced communications.
So do I have a motion to spend $600 for the license and $25 a year for maintenance?
Motion approved.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now, at the last meeting, he presented to us Mr. Saccio also presented to us the information for new servers. I don't have that current information with me, so at this time, I know you reviewed it. Does anybody want to make the motion? Do you want to entertain Wade into the next meeting? It's a network. Right now, we have a network of 13 computers, and he is able to keep it going. We are looking at a maintenance time of roughly 10 hours per week is what he's looking for, a budget to be able to maintain the network, and he was looking for a new computer at $500 going forward to change the server out. So do I have a motion to approve 10 hours a week to Mr. Saccio specifically in $500 for a new server?
I have a question on the survey. Will this,
Yes.
the information that'll be coming forward to him, is it just District 1, or will it have District 2
No,
and
this
3?
would be a server for District 1. It would handle all the computers, such as this dispatch computer. In the screen for this dispatch computer, it would operate the phone systems, it would operate the radio, and it would operate any other computers here.
All right.
And where would that be, downstairs in the cage?
It would be in the cage. And eventually, we already know, eventually we need to address the cage issue, but right now, Mr. Foster, everything seems to be locked up. You've locked up personal ID, anything with personal information
In the filing cabinets.
in the filing cabinets. But at some point, and that would probably be an IT, we have oil burner permits going back to the 40s, to the 20s. I don't foresee any reason why we would need to keep those. If there is, we could scan them all into this new computer and store them, and then eliminate those storage units and free up some space in that unit. But again, we need to do one thing at a time.
Now, what are you asking for the money to buy the server, the computer, or for the 10 hours of man time doing whatever?
Right now, we have a motion that would take care of both of those. 10 hours a week for bringing the computers up and $500 for a new server.
So what, he'll be adding all old data into the computers, is that what you're saying? And it's going to be 10 hours a day?
No, now he would,
How much, like, I mean, is it 10 hours, what, a month?
no, he's asking for 10 hours a week to maintain the, basically do whatever we need at this time, but priority would be get all the systems up and running, get the new server running, get the new dispatch computer and screen going, and then as he gets that done, we can prepare to get him a scanner so he can start scanning any old information we need to keep, and then we can dispose anything we don't need.
If he was to scan in all this old material, who will be there to tell him which is important or not?
Well, that would have to be, we would have to form a retention list.
Okay.
And I don't know if the retention list would come from the state fire marshal, from any of the chiefs. At this time,
I was wondering if I
we
could
can't
ask
answer that.
a question of
No.
Mr. Judson.
Mr.
Mr. Judson, if we were to scan all these articles in the future, would you be able to determine which one we should keep or not?
I could to an extent. Frankly, I'm not even aware of exactly what we have in terms of specific records and so forth like that at this time. I know we have a number of them in the main office that are pretty much clogging up the files. We're pretty much obligated to retain those for life almost as far as that goes. In terms of what's downstairs, I know we do have a cabinet that does have oil burner permits and so forth that basically date back to the 40s. As to whether or not it would be necessary to maintain those, that would be something that I could get clarification on through the marshal's office, I'm sure.
Do you have a?
No, I was just going to say that a lot of these permits, for instance, underground tanks or tanks within the building, or oil burners, you have to keep those files for as long as they're in the ground and maintain continuity for the tank, because with the hazardous material problems now that we go into, I just had an inquiry the other day about, maybe the chief did also, of a tank, wanting to know if it was still a tank in the ground at a particular location. Well, technically they should be on file, so that we can go to the file and pick out that tank and say, yeah, well, that tank was removed, or that tank is still in the ground.
Right.
So
if we scan it in, we could get rid of the paper copy, and as
Yeah.
long as we could pull it up
Yeah.
through the computer system.
Yeah.
I just had
So-
one question in regards to it. I know we just talked about the ID tag thing.
Yeah.
And now you're talking about putting all these old files and stuff in the system. The person that's doing all this, should they be bonded before they're touching anybody's personal IDs and information and stuff like that? Because if you can ever link something back to the department, shouldn't that person be responsible for
We're
that?
not talking about any personnel records at this time. We're talking
Well, you said
public
ID tags.
records. Well, the ID tags
That's
are,
personal information on those.
I don't believe there's personal
Blood
information.
types and everything on it.
Mr.
Those
Burke?
ID tags have everything.
Everything
From
you
social
can do.
security to who to contact, from blood records to
Just anybody
ouches,
can read it.
family members, that's got everything. When you scan that, that's gonna pull up your entire, just like the hospital. When they pull up your identity, they're gonna pull up everything from, and pretty much, once they get your social security number, they can get, bank records, everything like that. So that's something you might wanna check.
Okay, absolutely.
And the second thing.
Yes.
No. The 10 hours a week for the data entries and stuff like that. I was just wondering, I'm a gentleman that does some duty days here once in a while. Isn't that something that a duty guy can probably do here? You know, take a couple hours a week. I'm just trying to say that I know last year we had some crunch numbers and I lost my duty days for not being able to work here. We're talking about fire protection, not talking about a server for an internet access. I think maybe asking, you know, maybe he can take a duty day, and instead of him doing station duty, he can do something like, you know, scanning records and stuff like that. You know, instead of doing like house chores and, you know, truck maintenance and stuff like that. I mean, I think that'd be more personal and more, a better way to look at it than just assigning that individual 10 hours. And then another question is, you know, how come this wasn't posted? Isn't this a job that should be posted where somebody, you know, get a list of members and try to find out who's best at it, you know, before you just go and approve 10 hours a week?
Well,
I mean, I was never offered the job opportunity or anything like that. I mean, that's something that shouldn't be, you know, I know he did a lot of work into this and everything like that, but before you go on and charge 10 hours a week to a certain individual, I think that maybe there's other ways we can explore this. You know, doing duty days and stuff like that, having them come in as a member of a duty day and having them doing that so that way it can eliminate some extra.
we definitely need, for continuity, we need to have one network administrator. And this board currently has just been carrying on the duties that were assigned by prior boards, by prior administrations. We're not trying to make any more havoc on this department than already has happened. We're trying to keep some continuity, some stability, and I am simply carrying forward in discussing issues that have been done prior, under the prior administration, in trying to keep some continuity here. So at this time, that's why we haven't posted anything. This is not a new, this is an expansion on the current administration, basically the current position of network administrator. And I have discussed with the current person who the backup is, and he states that there have been some backup in the past, and that going forward, they, for one reason or another, were not allowed to continue, but he will be bringing those other people that were his backup in the past back into the situation, into life, and trying to go forward with their assistance so that everyone here, there's a backup to the backup. So it is something to think about. My board's welcome to think about it. And like I said, I'm just trying to keep some continuity at this time. So, motion second. Any discussion from my board? Mr. Croft?
I'm just curious, from your point of view, that 10 hours, what does that encompass? Is that inputting just old information? Is
No.
it maintaining the computer system? What are you going to get for that 10 hours? Who's going to monitor that 10 hours? If it goes over, what's going to happen?
The 10 hours from the way I'm looking at it would be, one, to get the new server up and running, two, to get all the networks together, to organize the network, to get everything on that one server, and get our website up and running every week, so there are no more questions with our minutes and have they been approved. And you know, I requested minutes from this meeting and I haven't received them. To eliminate that, I would like to see all the minutes of our committees on the website and accessible to anyone 24/7. And then the other duties later, when those things are ironed out, would be next to come up with what else has to be done on the computers and to keep them up and running. And then eventually, okay, you're pretty stable, everything's up where we want it. Now let's go through the file cabinets, let's create a retention list, let's get the retention list going forward. This is not, I'm not looking at this as a 1 month project, a 2 month project. I'm looking at this long term, you know, to really get everything accessible to everyone at all times. So, and in discussing it with the person who's been doing it right along, he felt that 10 hours a week is what he would need. So that's what I'm presenting at this time.
I think Mr. Ferrero was asking if he could do that as a duty day, where some people clean the station, some people work on trucks, some people, work on a building. If while he's here on a duty day, for an 8-hour day, if he could do it during that day.
He could, however, right now, Mr. Stasio is the only person, one of the people that we are using to do inspections, correct? During the day. Our other inspectors have jobs during the day, so during business hours, it's difficult to assign other people to do inspections. So he's doing a lot of inspections at this time.
Jay is not qualified to do station duty at this time. So he does inspections on a part-time basis per se. He's not necessarily a duty man. Speaking to his point,
Okay.
certainly it would be something that if he were a duty person and so forth, he absolutely could do something like that in lieu of truck maintenance or otherwise. I think that that's a relevant point. But at this point in time, if he were to start, he effectively is not qualified to cover the station during the day as a duty member. So he could do it, but he's not qualified to be a duty member right now, so he wouldn't fit into that category.
Okay. And why is he not qualified to
He
be a
doesn't have the
duty?
appropriate qualifications on all the apparatus at this time.
Okay.
Mr. Mello, I think I hear another question from the people on the floor that I think I'm correct in saying that should you in the future or this board here find that the 10 hours are not necessary, that it'll be reevaluated in the future?
Absolutely.
Okay. So if we need them only for 4 hours or 5 hours in a month, a year down the road, it'll be reevaluated and it'll no longer be a guaranteed 10 hours.
Who's gonna monitor the interim?
That was my next question. How would we monitor the situation? Is it by signing in, signing out, and
You could have him sitting here with the duty guy. The person who we're paying to be here in the station to begin with, you could have him sign him in and sign him out.
But I believe he works right from home. And he's connected to our network right from his house.
I believe he has the capability to work. I think he has the capability to reset passwords and keys from home, but from what I've seen, his primarily work, when I've been here, he's been in the basement here or in the radio room.
Communications at a fire, Mr. Stasio he takes over that computer completely from his residence and does whatever it is that he has to do. I see information all over the screen, completely from his house in the city.
Okay.
There needs to be secure.
well, Mr. Mello, a lot of people do work from home remotely, and that is basically how businesses run, as you know, today. So it's one of those things we probably may have to work with. It is a cost-efficient way of doing things.
Well, I do understand. I've been in the same instances at the bank. When I have a computer issue on a Saturday in particular, if I call the IT person, they can remote in on my computer desktop.
The only reason I
So
added that is because you said
we can make anything. I mean, if it makes this board feel more comfortable, we would say that his hours have to be logged in here at the station, and we can present that to him. Ms. Ferrer?
I'm just saying, I think it would be a wise idea to do the hours being done here. And I can totally understand working at home, especially with computers. I think we all understand computers have a tendency to do their own thing. And to have the ability to do something at home in case something, like you said, a Saturday, if something should go down, and he's like, hey, listen, I can't do it because of whatever reason, he can log in and do whatever he has to do. I have no problems with that. But when it comes to doing computer work, and especially on a town job, I mean, I don't know any town job where people can work at their house and do what they want and go from there. I think that should be closely monitored, especially, the only reason, like I'm saying, is I lost duty days because there was no funding, and, you know, here we are setting aside 10 hours a day, and 10 hours a week for this. I think that this should be redirected as a duty guy. I mean, I can maybe talk to him about how you want to work it out, but I think that maybe Mr. Stashio's best case is having them, monitored and whatever he's done. So that way, if something happens, it's not just him. Because I honestly here, if you go to try to ask any questions about, hey, how does this computer work, especially during the duty, hey, Jay, how does this work? Oh, I can't tell you. And I know that it's totally, I'm out of the loop of things, but I think it should be a series of people. Because every time we've always asked, or I say, Chief, hey, this isn't working, or hey, how come this isn't working? You'd be like, oh, I gotta talk to Jay. And Jay's just got comfortable with doing things at home because it's always been, hey, Jay. I think another thing to look into is having, if Jay's getting 10 hours a week, then there should be somebody else that's right beside him running the whole entire system, because he's the only one that.
No, he has stated to me that in the past he had 2 other people that were responsible with him, and that they were not allowed to do it under the past administration. And I told him that I believe my board and I would want to see at least 1, if not 2 other people well-versed in every aspect of the computers as his backup. The example I use, if it gets hit by a bus tomorrow, we need to stay running.
Yes, exactly.
So, and he has assured me that he would have the other 2 people brought back up to speed as soon as possible.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I think he might have been referring specifically in that regard to the alarm system and the digitizer, as opposed to the system that you're talking about right now.
Okay.
They may have been referencing that specifically.
Well, I know he was
the
that.
radio
he
boxes
was-
and the monitoring of the system and so forth like that, as opposed to what's been being discussed with regard to the 10-hour per week program.
Right, well, the 10 hours per week, he's gonna have to bring somebody up on the network, which he understands. The additional work, once it's up and running, we could cut this back to 5 hours, let's say in 6 months, cut it back to 5 hours. And if Mr. Ferrera's on duty, we can say, okay, everything's pretty cleaned up, we don't need to do anything. Have Mr. Ferrera scanning in items into the
2
computer.
individuals he was referring to specifically, I believe, 2 of our lieutenants that were trained with him originally when we started switching from the hardwire system to the
And that was-
digitized radio system.
I need you to refresh my memory, Mr.
Would have been Lieutenant Bakudo and
Andre.
Lieutenant Andre. That's correct.
Mr. Mello, it sounds like this issue should be brought back before us like in 3 months for review. To answer these questions again in a 3-month review, would that be early enough? Or?
So you're saying accept
I'm saying
this on a 3-month basis?
And then go forward and have these questions brought up and answered again. That way we'll have 3 months of data to work with, and we can answer your questions better in that time. And then if new elements arise, we'll be able to address them.
Questions?
Is there an outline on how this is going to happen? Like, is it 2 hours a day? Is it 10 hours, 1 day a week? It's just...
No, it's going to depend on how much we approve. We've approved the Raptor. If we approve the new network computer, if we don't approve the network computer, then it's almost a moot point. Yes, the website needs some attention.
I totally agree on having an IT guy that's very phenomenal with computers. And I'm not saying Jay's not. Jay's very phenomenal with computers. I'm just saying I think there should be a structure outlined. Like you go to apply to any job, especially if you go to custodian or firefighter. This is the outline. This is what it is. This is what right here. It's just 10 hours a week. Just take over the computer system. There's no clocking in. There's no this. There's no. That's the only question I have is I understand Jay works very hard, so Jay could come in here for 40 hours straight in 1 week, and then he has like 4 weeks off. There's no outline. Is it 2 hours, 10 hours? Is there set hours between 8 and 5? I mean, that's the thing I have. Like we were discussing with the duty guy. The duty guy leaves at 4. Well, Jay might work during the day. Is he going to come in at night? And work 2, 3 hours a day, or I mean, that's something else that you might want to.
Is this like a position that should be on a warrant because it seems like it's a dedicated pay to a person? Then just like, where's this coming from? Is it coming from garage duty? Is this coming from payroll? Where's the funding coming from? Is this something that we should put on a warrant because now you have one person dedicated to it, like you have chief, you have deputy chief, you have a lieutenant. I mean, you're setting a set pay for somebody. I think maybe it should be on a warrant.
If it's gonna be an ongoing thing,
Because it
As
sounds like
10
it's gonna
hours,
be maintenance in it, right?
well, if we can cut it back further down the road, that would be great.
What's the rate
You
of
know.
pay? That might answer your question.
What is his current
What
rate?
would the rate of pay be?
What is his current rate of pay as a firefighter?
Call firefighter,
Yes,
Class B call firefighter, and detail rate is $18 and $20.
okay.
As a firefighter, rate of pay, that's for towed incidents only. The detail pay would be any type of detail performed by a firefighter in this department would be $18 an hour.
$18 an
Doesn't
hour.
matter what rank you are.
So I would imagine this would be some form of detail at this time.
Then you could pay him as a $18 per hour detail rate.
That answer your question?
Not really,
What's the criteria?
because this is a set position.
Well,
I mean, it
this,
should be.
I mean, all I'm doing is moving forward with precedence. So the precedence has been, he's been getting paid $18 an hour when he comes in and does work on the computers. Is that correct?
Correct.
And it has never been a warrant item in the past.
No.
Okay.
Never had the position in the past.
Well, we're not giving him a title, we're not giving him a position, we're giving him a duty.
I thought it would fall into duty, regular, like a duty thing.
And that's, I agree with you, that's what we're saying
The
here.
duty pay is 18, but.
This is a duty we're assigning.
What you're saying is if this is now a position, a 10-hour-a-week position,
It should
the
be on the
detail
warrant.
rate of the detail duty
Right.
could be anything. Picking up trash, washing the windows, working on a truck, anything. That's a general rate of pay.
But now you also have, at the same token, you've got a duty rate, and how many hours a week is a duty guy allowed to do, and he's doing inspections too. So you gotta put that all together and add all that up.
The other thing is, if you have a set number of hours, I'm not sure, I know what it is for health insurance, but a permanent position with, maybe the attorney could answer this, Mr. Sousa. A set position with a set number of hours, a permanent position, would they be entitled to Bristol County retirement?
970 hours, I believe, is the limit.
I think there's two different issues. One is 20 hours a week for health insurance.
Okay.
In the system. I'm not too sure about that 10 hours, whether or not that gets you into county retirement,
Okay.
because it's a set position. It's not like these duty guys, they don't work every Monday, every week. They are assigned certain days of the month. It's random. This would be a permanent set position, so I would look into that.
So if we do it as a 3-month time period, certain time
Yeah,
period,
you can have them do whatever work you want done.
for the next
If
3
it's
months,
random,
and then it
if
ends
you
in
say,
3
"Look, put in
months.
20 hours this week, and whatever you need to do next week, and get this caught up," I don't think you have a problem. I think
Okay,
your problem lies if you create a permanent position.
okay. So if we create a temporary 3-month period, as Mr. Herron suggested,
And depending, you have to watch the other hours that he's putting in, but other than that, I don't know. Just when somebody mentions
well,
something,
that would
just
help
run a
us
flag
get,
up.
that would help us get the network up and running, that would help us get Raptor up and running, that would help us tie everything together. And then in 3 months, we'll see where we are. That would help us get the website up to date. Maybe we won't start scanning things in, but maybe he can set it up so we could scan
Yeah,
things
you
in,
definitely could have somebody else scan.
and then we could have the
Have them
duty
set it up
guys.
and have somebody else feed the papers in. I mean, that's not a computer programming issue, that's not an IT issue. Just
Okay.
having somebody scan documents is not something that you need, specialized talent.
Okay,
if you got a decent photocopier, which we don't have a decent photocopier in the other room, you could have it scan those documents through the photocopier. We do it every day at work.
Yeah, they're paying $5,000 or $6,000.
Yeah, the big money.
Yeah. I've got we just use a regular desktop one that costs $100, and that's what we use at the bank. And it works pretty well. So, okay, so I have we're discussing the motion. Can we say $500 for the computer itself?
Right.
And 10 hours a week for 3-month period.
Right.
Period. And in the end of 3 months, this is over, and wherever we are, we have to revisit it at that time.
Yes.
I'm gonna go against it because of the simple reason is that I would like to still see some kind of insurance or something that if he's making personal badges or anything like that on computers, I would like to see some kind of a liability on, or something like that, because of personal information that's getting, if anything gets out.
Well, I think we can solve that by having maybe someone like Mr. Judson stand next to him while they're making the badges. How often do you have to make a badge?
I don't believe it'd be that often.
Badges aren't that often, no. Is that, if I know what you're referring to?
Just the personal information, which I believe a chief himself would have access to more than a firefighter.
So if it isn't done that often,
What?
so we can just
I believe the
mandate.
badges, for the most part, are done at this point. I don't believe we're discussing badges.
I think we're going to once we get the new printer, we're going to redo it.
Yes, those are basically done.
Okay.
Previous administration, if you will, at this point. Everybody has those, and it needs to be issued those at this time. So he wouldn't be doing what you might consider classified information per se. I mean, if we're talking just regular permits and so forth like that right now.
You can always do it fairly simple. What I do whenever I hire you in my office, I have a confidentiality agreement. Obviously, that doesn't stop them from violating it. It surely gives them pause to do so, and you have some damage clause saying they'll agree to pay whatever damages result from.
Should we have Attorney Savastano print that up for Mr. Estacio?
Making a motion to?
Okay, let's finish this one, and we'll go on to that one. I think would be acceptable by Mr. Estacio, and if it isn't, well, then we'll cross that bridge next month. So as far as this matter, we have a first and a second, $500 for a new server, and 3 months, $18 an hour, 10 hours a week, max, to get the computers up and running. I have a motion, I have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So now you want to make a motion that Attorney Savastano
To
prints
make
up
up a clause, a contract or something, some sort, for liability.
confidentiality.
Yeah, for
Okay.
liability.
Do I have a
I
second?
feel much more safer.
I'll second it. Just trying to
Discussion.
think, what else could we use that clause for in future instances in the fire department? Would there be any other situations that would arise we would need something like that in the future? I'm trying to think.
Well,
Is it only pertaining to information, personal information?
Do you have access to, like, if you go into somebody's house to I don't know, view systems or anything, or tying into alarm systems, or do you have any access to person's homes or security alarms or something like that? I guess
They go into just
And
about
any one of the
store in this
firefighters goes
town,
in.
every store, they got a Knox box, is it, that they can access the store at any time of night for an
I
alarm.
guess you could apply to that. It would be a little bit different wording, but you could.
I think our concern right now is
Okay.
the social security numbers, date of birth, blood types, that type of thing.
Personal
So
information.
technically, anyone who has access, if it's Mr. Sasha or his backups, or even the Acton, anyone doing any administration, maybe we need to have everyone sign one of those. Is that the safe?
I make everybody, I even sign one.
Okay.
My wife's done stuff on my computer and she's signed them. I mean, just for protection. That doesn't mean they're not going to violate it, just like there's a law in place that says you
Right.
can't steal from somebody. It doesn't stop them from stealing, but it certainly gives them pause to do so. If
And it
you have
would
a
help-
damages clause in there, then they're signing.
And if
ahead
they
of time.
do something wrong, it helps protect this board in this department.
Exactly.
So,
Okay. All right, great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. No offense, but that's enough on computer stuff. Inspections. Mr. Judson, inspections. We're all set. I put it on here, just an update. We have the credentials.
Day-to-day at this point. We'll be moving forward during next month with the alcohol inspections and so forth like that. Quarterlies will be conducted as they do.
District 3 will be coming in to do the nursing homes.
They don't necessarily have to at this point in time.
Okay.
I may have them come down, and we're also at this point have been working with District 3 in terms of the school inspections, just to try and unify the process between the districts. I know the chief prior to was working with them. I've met with both the high school principal and the superintendent there, advised them that we're going to be working with District 3 to try and pretty much get our policies and our inspections unified. So in all likelihood for the next quarterly, which isn't due until the end of November on the schools, I may have District 3's inspector work with us on that. But at this point in time, we don't have any specific buildings that want their assistance.
Okay. So there's no delay, there's no problems. Real estate transactions can occur.
That is correct.
I know there was a slight delay the first week. There was a concern.
With regard to the delegation of authority, that was a concern. That's been resolved, and we're basically handling things on a day-to-day basis at this time.
Okay. Any questions from my board? Okay. So leading on to the operations of the department, I mean, it's hand in hand. This department was never shut down. We were operational. If there was a fire, we were ready to go out to serve the public.
Absolutely no issues in regards to emergency responses and so forth like that. There was an issue administratively that needed to be dealt with, and as I said, that was resolved. There were no major issues that occurred during that period.
Okay. As I mentioned at the last meeting, I asked for my board's consent to meet with Marcel Dumont and John Judson to discuss the administration aspects and the running of this department at this time. We did meet for a while, and we discussed a lot of things. At this time, how we left the meeting was Mr. Dumont is willing to assist the district to moving forward and as an administrative type of position, being paid. I believe we didn't even mention pay because that's not a concern of his, but I would assume that that would be under his current pay scale for investigations. It seems that that would be the most appropriate if that's applicable. What's that?
Talk about that.
We can talk about that further. But Mr. Dumont would, if this works out, if this is my board's desire, he would be handling all investigations. He would take on administrative duties, drug and alcohol policy, the physicals for all the men, different types of town meetings as far as mutual aid, disaster recovery. He would be the key person working with the town. He would be the district's representation for the fire marshal, and we would ask him to take on the key person for the quarry checks, if there's any new quarry checks that need to be done. And simply what that will do is it would allow Mr. Judson to stay part-time. He's gone a little bit over, but he hasn't gone way over. We can't ask Mr. Judson to perform 1.5 person's duties because he's a half a person, essentially, part-timer. And we can't just give him the chief's duties 100%. So what this would be doing is leaving the inspections, truck maintenance, schedules, anything to do with the men to Mr. Judson. He would be handling the day-to-day. If there's a fire, he would be handling it. If a truck breaks down or needs some maintenance, he would be handling it. he has been taking care of the trucks and sending them out for their yearly inspections. So he would carry on in that regards. And this would allow a system of checks and balances. This would allow two sets of eyes, but what this would not allow would be, let's say one of the guys has an issue. There's no conflict. He knows there's no reason to go to Mr. Dumont. He would have straight, clear line of command would be, for that situation, would be Mr. Judson.
It's fine.
So, that, we met the other day for about 3 hours or so, and we discussed a lot of the different issues, and this is something for us to work on. This is a temporary direction to take this department until we can straighten out the next thing on our agenda, which would be coming up. Any questions or concerns, or Mr. Judson?
Any questions on it?
No, we did meet the other day, and essentially, the chairman has said, pretty much sums up our meeting. I would point out that we do have several additional investigators that do work jointly with Mr. Dumont in that regard. But effectively, what he would be doing would be handling some of the issues primarily that occur outside of the station, in terms of meetings, in terms of representation and so forth like that. Primarily due to the fact that while I typically work a couple of duty days covering the station during the week, it makes it extremely difficult to handle those types of situations and have the station covered at the same time. It doesn't work. So I either have to leave the station unmanned to deal with those types of circumstances, or basically cover them on a day when I ordinarily wouldn't be in the station. So it's something that is, I don't know that we could pinpoint specifically a number of hours per se, similar to what we do on a duty shift, which would be 8 hours a day, 40 days a week. Could be something that in any given week, there could be one or two issues that are going to require attention. Could be a week where there was nothing. There could be one where there was 3 or 4. So it's somewhat of a variable type of position in that sense. And it's something like everything else at this point. We're just going to have to get a feel for how it's going to work as we get into it a little bit.
Mr. Durant, accurate, everything,
Yeah.
we're all three of us are on the same page. They did request that we would keep the lines of communication open. If I meet with them once a month and report back to the board, that way if there is an issue, we can address it immediately.
All set?
All set? All set? We are free to move forward with this direction as a temporary solution for the department. Okay. So do I have a motion that we move forward this way? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. One thing that I presented to the board last month, and there has been some question about, was the request that I made, a legal opinion. It's in regards to Mr. Judson getting some assistance from John Alcadino in regards to ongoing current situations. The question came through. Mr. Alcadino was concerned that any help that he gave Mr. Judson would invalidate his the request that the separation agreement that he asked us for. He was afraid that would jeopardize that agreement. And I did present this to each of my board members last month. He felt that he would like to have us have a vote saying that it is okay, essentially, and it is not invalidating the separation agreement that he requested from us back in September.
With all due respect, Mr. Chairman, it's an interpretation of the agreement. There's no
That's
language
correct.
in this agreement
that would preclude that. The only thing in this agreement that he could possibly rely on, I would suggest that he didn't consult his counsel, because his counsel would have told him the same thing, is from the day of the execution of this agreement until retirement date, the employee, being Alcavino, shall have no authority to act in any way on behalf of the district, nor shall have the authority over any employees of the district, including but not limited to respect to any disciplinary action. So that means he can't act as an agent. That doesn't mean he can't consult with or answer questions by anybody in the department relating to, particularly if we need to have, and we discussed this specifically with his attorney, if there needs to be some, obviously there needs to be some discussion about the transition, you know, if he's
Correct.
involved, if he's already inspected something, there's nothing in this agreement that precludes that. If the board wants to vote on that, that's fine, but my letter says that it's not a violation of the agreement. That's my legal opinion. I don't think it requires a board vote. If the board wishes to vote on it, it really doesn't have any legal effect, but I'll leave that up to the board.
He asked through Mr. Judson that we take a vote. You know, he didn't feel comfortable that I approached you without my board's knowledge. I did inform my board as soon as I could at our next meeting that this correspondence was given out.
I wasn't aware of that till today, because I would have called his lawyer and told his lawyer to tell him that it's not.
I understand, but this agreement that he requested is, you know, significant to him, and he doesn't want it jeopardized. So if I can have a motion that we, as a board, if my board feels comfortable, he has the ability to speak to Mr. Judson and assist him on ongoing matters.
Perhaps based on that, maybe you want to consider limiting the communications to Mr. Judson as opposed to through other, just so we can avoid the
That is correct.
appearances of, you know, acting as an authority over firemen or fire.
It does mention his name specifically. So, do I have a second?
A second.
Questions or concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Now to the stuff that's going to take a while. In the packet that I presented to you, the next item on the agenda is the forward direction of the department. In the package presented is a letter from Attorney Savastano dated October 12th, and this outlines, in a sense, where we can go, what we can do, what our options are. Weak chief, strong chief, no chief, special legislation. It breaks it down pretty simply, and this is something that we need to decide as a board in order to come up with a good plan, short-term, long-term, and a direction. So with that, I'm going to ask Mr. Savastano to address it, explain it.
I responded to basically the inquiries that were asked, and unfortunately, these statutes are not always written so well, and a lot of the statutes don't have a lot of case law interpreting them. So we have to look at the intent of the legislature to the best of our ability. So with regard to the weak chief statute, there is a statute that specifically authorizes fire districts to accept Section 42, which is a strong chief statute. It's silent as to Section 42A, which is the weak chief statute. What is the legislature's intent on this? It's unclear. Sometimes in statutes, they refer to cities, towns, or districts. Sometimes they forget to mention districts. Other times they mention cities, towns, and districts in one portion of the statute, and in the next paragraph of the same statute, they forget to mention districts. So, based on the way this is worded, my legal opinion is there's no provision for districts to adopt weak chiefs. And perhaps that is because there is an alternative, which was the alternative that we had in this district before we adopted the strong chief statute, which was to have the chief engineer. So that is my explanation as to why the legislature did this. I can't get into their thinking, but that's my opinion based on the statutes that exist. With regard to the revocation of strong chief statute, there's nothing specifically prohibits a district from revoking a strong chief statute, and there's no case law
preventing that from doing so. So without that restriction in place anywhere within the statute or case law, my opinion would be that you could do so. Of course, any of these open or legal challenges, you can always challenge any of these issues until a court says unequivocally this is what the statute means. But based on the existing case law and the existing statute, there's certainly a strong argument to be made that this district can revoke the strong chief statute. The other question was, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just before we go on to the next thing, does it say the time frame? Do we have to wait 3 years to revoke that statute? Can we have a special election as soon as possible and change that statute?
Isn't it 3 years this next?
3 years would be up in May 2012 off the floor. However, if there's no 3-year limitation, we could speed this process up. Mr. Prudential, how soon could we have a special election? Or a special, not an election, it would be a warrant meeting off the floor.
Signature, well, you could call for one,
There would be, we have to advertise it, we have to post it. That would be 30 days, 20 days.
30 days, going to be posted, here, the Southwood Library, the Council on Aging, and Town Hall.
Okay.
For special, official meeting.
See, we could have the special meeting and speed the process for the search up.
Let me look at that issue briefly. It shouldn't take me long because I do remember
Okay.
concern about 3 years earlier on, and I didn't look at it specifically for.
Well, I believe the 3 years has been coming off the floor from a lot of the Monday morning
Right.
lawyers. So,
I don't know where that came from, but I didn't look at that issue specifically, but that shouldn't take me long at all to give you an answer.
okay.
You know, if there's a question of someone could appeal, if you're going for a special election to answer this
Well, it
question.
wouldn't be an election, it would be a meeting.
A meeting. And someone could appeal it because of something's not clear as to the time limit. Would it be better for us just to wait till the definite 3 years so that we minimize the chance of being appealed?
Yeah, I mean, if I think it's unequivocal that you don't have to wait 3 years, I'll tell you that. If I think it's unclear, I'll tell you that as well. And then
All right.
it probably makes sense to wait till 2012. I think
Okay.
it was 2009 with the adoption.
Absolutely, there's no question about that.
The next question I was asked is, if you retain the strong chief statute, could you restrict the term? The answer to that is no. There really is no limitation on the length of the term. There is if it's less than 5,000. I assume this district is greater than 5,000, my understanding. There are other practical ways to address that, however, because the salary is specifically set. It can be appropriated by the district through the warrant. However, it is within the Prudential Committee's control as to the salary that is actually set. So you could, after a year, set a salary of $10, and perhaps somebody would want to stay for that amount of money. I can't answer that question directly, but so that's kind of one way in which you could try to retain the strong chief statute, but try to limit the term. That's just a practical suggestion, but you can't unequivocally just give them a 3-year or 2-year or 5-year term. The other way to do it, which I suggested in here, and again, I don't know the likelihood of success. You certainly could reach out to your to our representative to ask that question, is to create your own hybrid form, which would be done through a special act. If you petition, if at a district meeting you petition the legislature to create a special act, and I know the town's done that on several occasions, to create something that's not specifically authorized by statute. Oftentimes they will defer to that district or that municipality to make its own determinations. You could set up some kind of hybrid where you would have a strong chief, but only for a specified period of time, or you could alternatively hire a weak chief, or whatever this district decides they want, create their own hybrid form of chief. They would have to do that through a vote, 50% majority requesting a special act for the purpose for this district.
Of the meeting.
Yeah, the meeting would do it.
The regular meeting in May would do that. Okay. Question to you. Can we, at the meeting in April, take on several things at once? Per se, put on one warrant, saying, we want to go back to the weak chief, to the chief engineer. At the same time, put another warrant saying, we want special legislation going through and petition the legislative body to give us the strong chief with a certain term.
Absolutely. As
So-
long as the votes aren't inconsistent, if the votes become inconsistent, then you have an issue. But if you create the ballot question in such a way as if you want to revoke the strong chief statute, if you revoke it, that's not inconsistent with then having a subsequent special legislation. And if you don't revoke it, that's still not inconsistent with having a subsequent special legislation. If the town meeting or the district meeting votes yes or no on the up or down on the strong chief, but then they also subsequently vote to have special legislation go forward to change the structure, I don't see that as being inconsistent.
You mentioned ballot, you're still referring to the special meeting, right?
Well,
Or the annual meeting?
The annual meeting, special meeting, however it's done, right?
So the reason what I'm looking at is look, let's say it is, we have to wait till May. In May, we see if we can switch back to the weak chief, to the chief engineer. We go back to the chief engineer. It could take over a year to get the strong chief. And the reason I'm saying
Strong
that,
chief with the limitations.
with the limitation of, let's just say 5 years. Mr. Dumont's been educating me on that. He feels that nobody's going to want to come to this district to have a job as a weak chief. Correct? That's your opinion.
That's correct. As a matter of fact, it just came out today that the Fall River chief is leaving at the end of his contract. And he's a strong chief. And leaving at the end of his contract, which is next month, and he's going to take over Brookline, be the chief in Brookline. So I don't know whether they got special legislation there or not, but they, in fact, I know they had a contract, because I know the chief and I know the previous chief, and they had a contract.
The contract could have been just for the terms of the employment as opposed to the existence of the employment itself. For instance, benefits, pay, things to that extent. I don't know.
Well, again, he's leaving at the end of the contract because I guess he's leaving on his own, but there was talk about them not renewing the contract again. So, I mean, it's done.
So there was talk that Fall River was not going to renew that chief's
Well,
contract.
I guess he had some kind of inclination, or there was some rumors to that effect. I don't know whether that's true or not, but that's the information that I got.
But if they had documented enough for just cause,
Yeah.
they could have
Yeah, but
removed him under
I'm sure with him there's no just cause because he's a good chief.
Okay.
That's just.
So you're
just a
basically
point of
saying that-
information I would just
right.
wanted to-
Strong chiefs do leave their positions.
Yeah.
Okay.
So all these changes have to be done in a special meeting or the annual meeting.
Doesn't the bylaw have to be changed?
Yes, every bylaw that refers to
And
chief or chief engineer. You switched it back a couple of years ago. Went through all the bylaws and changed each line. So I assume you'd have to change it back.
You have to change everything back to.
There's quite a bit in here to change it to what it is now. You'd have to change every one of those things and change the code back.
You never said it would be easy.
So there was a specific warrant article that said change every reference to
Well, no, we
chief
just changed
engineer to.
we changed every bylaw to refer to it as fire chief as opposed to chief engineer.
We also have board of engineers now changing to a fire chief and his deputy. So anytime they reference the board of engineers, it didn't exist. They dissolved the board of engineers.
It's like there were one article, which was Article 5, Fire Department, it looks like there was 10 sections that were changed to change it from what we had to what we have now. So those will all have to be changed.
Okay. just putting that out is one of the options to the board. I mean, we took a vote saying, a consensus vote saying, we don't like the tenure for life. So basically, Attorney Savastano is presenting us with the options. Though it not be easy, that is one of our options.
It's a lot of work, it's not something that's gonna happen quickly, it's something that takes some time to do.
Right.
Then
So,
if you want to change it again, you gotta go back.
well, then we have to, if it gets approved, and we also have to look at the fact that it may get voted down on the floor. We have to look at the fact that the legislature may not approve it. However, it's my personal feeling that that's what the taxpayers in this town want, is no one to have tenure for life.
Right.
And I agree with that. However, he did, Attorney Savastano did give us an option. I would like to know how practical of an option it is to say, we can stop the search tomorrow, hire a chief right out of the gate. He's a strong chief. We can always remove him for just cause, or if we give him a 3-year contract and he chooses to stay and we're not happy with his performance, we could vote to pay him $1 a year. Is that a practical? Is that going to open up litigation between the board in the?
Depends how litigious the person you hire is.
Well,
It's a little bit of a concern.
I would say that you're giving quite a bit of ammunition already by just our conversation right here, and it's on record.
Well, I
Well,
mean,
there's another option too.
okay.
I mean, here we are, we could go down the road we're on right now, have this settled, and wait till the election, see what the town says, which way to go, and then from that day forward, go to the legislature, or go to the legislature now, and then make the decision on which way we're going for a chief and start the chief after it may take a year to do it.
Well, that's right. I'm trying to speed the process up a little bit. I believe we can't go to the legislative body until it's approved at a warrant, correct?
Exactly.
So we couldn't, if we decide we want to go through the legislative, special legislation.
Your meeting is your legislative body.
That's
You are
correct.
the executive branch, so.
Correct. So unless he gets back to us and says, we can have a special, there's no question about it, we can have a
You can have a
special.
special now to send something to the legislature, that's different than the revocation. You're asked whether the revocation can take place
Okay.
within the 3 years. That's
So we
a separate
could
issue.
ask for a special meeting
If that's
now.
where you wanted to go and create some kind of hybrid, you could come up with that hybrid and do a special meeting before the years.
I'm just trying
I
not
would
to
answer
keep
by the
this.
end of the week on the 3-year issue as well.
Okay.
I just didn't look at it.
I'd like not to keep the department in limbo until July 1st or even later.
Well, I don't feel like rushing into go getting a new chief.
Oh, absolutely not.
You know,
I don't want to.
I'd rather keep the status quo as it is right now today and solve these issues before, okay, we got a new chief and it's not, now we're moving down this road, and I'd rather not go there till these issues are solved.
I do like that. I do like that idea. If we could have a special meeting to see if,
I guess you guys should decide what type, form of chief or form of
well,
department you want.
based on the recommendations I've been getting, not just from Mr. Dumont, from Mr. Judson, from other people, short of the tenure for life, I believe the right thing is the strong chief. So, does anyone else agree with me, or you don't agree with me on the strong chief? being the
Listening
right-
to Mr. Savastano explain the conditions of strong chief that we haven't answered yet, I can't, I'm afraid to acknowledge a strong chief and have
Right,
legal
but
issues.
the issue is the tenure for life. So if
Right.
we could, that's my issue with the strong chief at this time. So what I'm saying is, other than that issue, I believe the strong chief should be the way we would go, because we could get a good applicant in here, we could get a good person in here, if we get the special legislation saying, yes, you can have a strong chief for 5 years.
What in your mind, what is the significant difference between having a chief engineer for a period of years and a quote-unquote strong
Well-
chief for a number of years? Strong chief can only be removed for cause.
The difference that I see is,
Chief engineer, you're typically gonna require cause for removal.
please,
The
let him
strong
explain
chief-
it.
Strong chief runs the department. 100%, he's the top dog. He hires the deputy chief, he hires and fires the firefighter. As a chief engineer, you have a board of engineers, and you have supposedly two other deputies, if you want to call it that, first assistant, second assistant engineer, that everybody has to agree on what they want to do. So if the chief wants to do something, believe me, I know, if the chief wants to do something and feels that that's the best thing for his department, and the other guy doesn't like it and doesn't want it to happen, he votes no, and then he gets the other guy to vote no, you're done. If you have a strong...
I guess my question is, do you think that nobody would want to be a chief engineer?
Absolutely.
Do you think if you're asking your whole department, everybody would say, no, I don't want to be a chief engineer because I don't have ultimate power?
Anybody that if you're gonna go out and interview anybody that's got qualifications that we have, and responsibilities and qualifications, then you've got to make it a strong chief.
You make it if you want to attract somebody from Los Angeles to come to
Well, yeah,
as opposed to...
yeah, and I don't want to say that nobody in this department has qualifications at this point. They don't have the time, first of all. There's so many young guys, whether they're, they don't have the time. Mr. Judson has the time, and I think he has the qualifications, personally. But the fact is that if you're going to go out on a search, and you're going to try to find a good chief, somebody that knows what he's doing and understands how to have the leadership in this department, then he should be a strong chief so that he can use his leadership abilities and his responsibilities with the fire department and leave it to him to run the department.
Okay, but that's not a legal issue, that's a policy issue for both the Prudential Committee and the meeting committee.
Also, I believe a strong chief has overpower and say of the Prudential Committee finances. So technically, you really don't even need a Prudential Committee.
You do. You don't have the Prudential Committee is the finance board. And they control the money. If the chief wants to buy a new truck and they say, no, you can't have the money, he doesn't buy a new truck.
Well, legally can do.
No, he can't. He can't. He's got to have the finances. He's got to have the backup. And you've got to approve, the Prudential Committee has got to approve the expenditures or what he wants to spend. He can buy things. He can buy normal things as you control. You control the money. If you say he can spend $100, then he can only spend $100. But the fact is that he runs the department fire-wise, personnel-wise, and so on. He doesn't run the finance. He's supposed to keep within his budget. That's why he does a budget. Presents it to the board, they approve it, and if he goes out of that budget, you don't approve it. And it doesn't happen.
Mr. Herrick, I have a question. Could we, as a board, through a chief engineer, delegate those responsibilities of the strong chief to a chief engineer? You're talking about control of the men, the hiring, the firing?
I think you'd have to create your own hybrid form of government.
Okay.
Because he's correct in the way the prior. That's the problem. Did the legislature really mean you couldn't have a weak chief? I personally don't think so, but I have to read the four corners.
Okay.
I don't think they thought it through, frankly. Like I told you, sometimes they have the word district in one paragraph, and the next paragraph they forget district and they just say city or town in the same statute. So, and with regard to one particular case, the court has said you can't, if they don't specifically say you can revoke, cities and towns can't revoke. They never said districts can't revoke, and this is the Supreme Judicial Court. So sometimes they leave out the term district, sometimes they include it. So when they gave the option for districts to adopt the strong chief statute, did they inadvertently forget to mention section 42A when they said section 42? Probably, but I can't get behind the legislator's thought and say, you know, that sometimes we read statutes and like, who the heck wrote these things? So I'm bound, without some other court interpretation, I'm bound to tell you that that's the four corners of the statute don't allow you to create this weak chief, which, you know, that's why I'm suggesting perhaps the best way to do it is you guys decide what you really want and create your own hybrid form and talk to Chris Markey and see if you think he can get it through the legislature. Of course, that's conditional on the district meeting approving such a. It sounds like you guys think you have a sense of which way the meeting would go, of course. You know, it's always difficult.
Mr. Chairman, I have a
Yes.
question. If we went back to chief engineer and we had assistants versus second, does that mean it goes back to an elected position?
No. Doesn't have. It does put more on the Prudential committee, which is not the reason why I'm here, you know, and which is why the strong chief is attractive to me, especially as the chairman. So at this time, I almost think this board, each member of this board should go out, do their research, and we should discuss this further next month.
Next month, yes.
Does that, will you guys be able to ask some questions, form your own opinions, and in the meantime, Attorney Savastano can get back to us and say, you know, you're going to wait 3 years, so you don't have to wait 3 years.
That's fine. In the meantime, with the Commissioners Board, I'll reach out to City Solicitor Fall River to find out what the issues were and why they.
Or how they could, or did they, right. Mr. Farrar.
Just putting it out there, I know that the town of Norwood fire department was a strong chief, and they stripped him of his powers and said almost in the same idea that's going on here, and they're making it into a weak chief, which almost every town north of here is a weak chief. Almost all the surrounding communities from the town I work in are all weak chiefs, which means the chief runs his department, does the discipline, does everything inside, like, you know, Mr. Salvasano said, does all the discipline, he's in control of the fire department, but he's not in control of, you know, financing and if there's any other issues.
So they may have had an adoption of the weak chief statute and nobody ever challenged it legally.
Yeah, so I think that
whether they've got a legal opinion on that or not, I mean, I'm a member of the City Solicitors Town Council Association. We have these listserv discussions every day, and it's amazing how attorneys sometimes will, one town will go in one direction, another town will go in another direction, and people interpret statutes different ways, I think. But it's clear that Section 48 and Section 65 does not specifically reference the weak chief statute, which is Section 42A. It just doesn't do it. And maybe some other attorney said, well, or maybe they never asked council, or maybe the council misread the statute, or maybe council said, well, we can do whatever we want as long as nobody challenges it legal. That
Now,
would be a bad legal advice, I would think.
I just want to ask Mr. Dumont, most of the towns north of us have weak chiefs?
No, not that I know. Most of them are strong chiefs.
Okay, because Mr. Ferrera just mentioned.
All the towns that we work around us, they're all weak
Well,
chiefs.
I don't know
Yeah.
that particular area, but I know that most of the chiefs that are in, say, Bristol County or whatever, were strong chiefs.
Yeah. I'm just saying is that there was the same conflict happened in that town in Norwood, and they stripped him of the strong chief statute just for the same. His problem was over, budgeting and buying what he wanted.
So they disciplined him. He didn't request.
No, it was more like
A
I ran
separation
out of
agreement.
money and you should have spent this here, but they had no control of who was going to tell him what. The town just said, "Here's $4.2 million." That's it, because that's pretty much what a strong chief does. He takes his whatever, say $2 million, says, "I need this for payroll, I need this for this," and he can budget however he wants. So he can take some from roof, say he has extra from roof, he can put it here, he can put it there. Versus having a board, there's nobody that he can talk to, and that's where he ran into his problem. And the town says, "I don't understand why you're spending so much," and that's what they stripped him.
If the meeting can specifically appropriate a certain thing, just like in the town, you can appropriate X amount for X and Y amount for another issue, or X amount for equipment, and you can't exceed any appropriation.
Yeah, well,
So maybe they didn't give them those boundaries.
I can't answer that because I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I just know that he was strict of.
They don't have
Well,
unfair
that's
control to do
That's why
whatever
you
they
have the
want.
Prudential committee here. Because
Exactly.
you're the financial board and you
Right.
control the money.
Right.
And he has to come to you for, as we have been coming to you for any expenditure that you have. You approve the expenditure and its purchase.
Well, why I'm saying it was because I know our last chief sat in front of us and told us that he doesn't have to ask us because he's a strong chief. He was doing it out of respect. That he could have spent money on whatever he wanted.
No, that's not true.
Okay.
That's why I wanted to just
I
make
think
sure,
that's,
you know?
I think that's why your
These are things we
Prudential
should
committee
know.
is here. That's why the Prudential committee is here. So they can control the expenditures, whether, you know.
That's what I always
If
thought.
you say no,
Same
you
thing that
can't.
town meeting does, and the legislative branch, the same thing town meeting does with the police department. They appropriate certain amounts. They can say, this is specifically limited to the purchase of new police cars.
Right.
So your legislative branch, the town meeting can design the appropriation. It depends on how much guidance you give them. If you just say, here's, what he said, $42 million, spend on what you want, of course he has that control. If the appropriations are specifically tailored, then there is certainly just some discretion with the chief, there will be, but it depends on the controls that you put in place.
Okay. So I think at this time, there's no motion to be made, there's no seconds. I'd like this board to come back, do their own investigations, talk to different people, form their own opinions, and we'll discuss this further next month.
And based upon the direction from the board, I can propose certain.
Then we can say, let's have a special meeting, let's not, let's put it off, and we could go forward. If we can have a special meeting to if we can come up with an agreement on the hybrid and have a special meeting to get the people to vote on it, to speed that process up, I believe that would be the best bet at this time. That would give us a 5-month head start, even if we have a December meeting. Okay, very good.
But one last thing to consider,
Yes.
just so you know, and I know this happened in the past, where if there's an approval, say in October, and the legislative session ends, I think the legislative session is every 2 years. The legislative session ends at December 31st. It's not going to get heard on time, so you want to wait till January. So we need to determine, and that's easy with a phone call, to figure out when the current legislative session ends. It might be this December, it might be next December. If it's next December, that's not an issue, but if it's this December, you don't want to hold a vote in November because it'll never get through. Then you'd have to hold a new meeting next
January
legislative
1st.
session, January 1st. whatever.
Okay, so if you could find that out for
That's
us.
easy. That's a phone call.
And then at the same time, I'll probably try to contact once we know. I'll wait until the next meeting before we contact Chris Markey and reach out to him to see. But if you can find out, we'll move forward there. Okay. Any other questions for Attorney Savastano? Real quick, I got a couple of more things under correspondences. Real simple. Yeah, we're all set. I have a letter here from Jeffrey Costa. I'm writing the letter in regards to the district's annual open house Sunday. In the past, I've used the Association Engine 2 to provide rides for the children. As you may know, the truck is out of commission. I was speaking with the deputy, and I offered to bring down my own personal truck, which is this district's old Engine 1. My truck is registered and insured with liability policy, just in case anyone happens to get hurt while they're riding on the truck. I've been doing this for 9 years, and I've only had one injury. Quite frankly, thoughts or concerns, contact me anytime. So, can I have a motion that we accept his offer to come down with his engine, our old Engine 1?
I'll make that motion and thank him for offering.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I had one more thing.
Mr. Chairman?
Okay, I
Mr.
got a
Chairman?
couple more, yes.
What time will it be? Can you tell the people at home what time?
I'll defer to Mr. Judson. Open house.
By the time this airs, it'll be too late, but it is this Sunday, the 16th, from 11 to 2.
Okay.
It is posted on the website.
All right.
And on the front of our building.
And on the front of the building, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Next thing here, this just came in. This is the Zoll batteries. This is for all our packs, defibrillator packs. They need to be replaced once every 4 years, and they're up for replacing now. The amount to replace them all is $2,820.
47 units.
47 batteries in total. Do we need a purchase order? Can we just vote on this now and sign off on it? Okay. Do I have a motion to appropriate $2,820 for the defibrillators?
Motion to approve.
Is that the only vendor that sells that particular battery? Is that a specialized battery, you know?
Who's that? Lieutenant
Because
Cabral
as
is the one that basically,
as a procurement officer, I should
You
be
should
able-
be, yeah. $2,800, is that,
That's over 5,000.
it's under 5,000?
Yeah, but you can, it all depends. If you want to do it yourself, it's okay, but.
So if we make a motion to appropriate up to $2,800 and you find somebody in the next week or so that would do it for $1,800, that would be, okay. So do I have a motion to approve up to $2,820
Yes.
for the replacement of the batteries? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So we'll pass this to you, and you can do, do your thing, and we'll take it from there. We'll get them replaced. Ms. Farrar?
Just on that, on those batteries, they should meet requirements, because that's life-saving equipment. That
Yeah,
has to be followed.
this is from Zoll Medical.
Yeah, I think that'd probably be your best bet, is to get that straight from the manufacturer, because if anything should happen, they'll warranty anything that happens to their equipment with those batteries.
Our packets, all Zoll battery packets.
the existing ones, I believe, are, John, I'm not sure, those units, they're
Okay.
all Zolls. They have been to this point, yes.
Okay.
Lieutenant Cabral is the one that basically made the arrangements. And,
Okay. We'll let the
that.
procurement officer review it.
Okay.
And,
You could address it with Lieutenant Cabral specifically.
thank you. Okay. The last correspondence that I have, just sign that and we'll pass it over. This is, I've heard a little bit about this. This is from Frank O'Regan, paramedic supervisor at Stat Ambulance. And it says, "Dear sirs, I am requesting permission to house our Medical 2, Rescue 2, in District 1 Fire Station, starting January 1st and lasting approximately 4 months. This relocation is due to the construction project at District 2 Station. That will begin this month. Any questions, feel free to contact me at any time." This is all I have. I have heard mention that, yes, they pay rent. I've heard anywhere between $800 and $1,200 a month, and that they're looking just for short term of 4 months. There's no mention of it. We do have a dedicated phone line. John Altadino had a phone line brought in, dedicated to them. They would be putting somebody in the station 24/7. As long as there are no calls, they would leave this station only for calls. Maybe
Have they cleared this, have they talked to you about this at all?
No.
you can elaborate.
No.
Okay.
I believe up until earlier this month, they were unclear as to whether or not they were actually going to be housed in like a residential style trailer outside the building over there. And apparently they determined that due to the time of the year, they didn't really want to have their personnel outside under those conditions. Again, this was forwarded through Lieutenant Cabral, through Stat Ambulance, basically, for our consideration. I know they were discussing it earlier in the year. They are behind schedule over there. They had anticipated this work that's going to displace them they expected it to be occurring now and be over with by the winter, but unfortunately it didn't occur. I believe Chief Alcadino had indicated to them that we would be receptive to accommodating them on a short-term basis, with the understanding being that they would be providing their own furnishings, basically whatever they would require for living quarters, which would be housed in our basement right now, not on this level to my knowledge. And I've also been led to believe that they would be willing to compensate us at the same hourly rental fee that they currently pay District 2. We would have one concern, obviously, and that would be housing the rescue, because we don't have an open bay right now. More than likely, I don't think it would fit in the station with our fire alarm truck. Again, due to the time of year, that could present logistically an issue. We're leaving that outside. I'm quite certain that while District 2 will have an open bay in lieu of where the medical rescue is going to be leaving, probably going to want to house their forestry in there over the course of the winter, because right now they have to drain the tank if it's going to be sub-freezing, which is coming up quickly. One of these days, if the rescue comes over, if gentlemen are going to entertain this possibility, we might want to see how we could fit that in here. Another possibility would be able to ask District 3 if they have acceptable room in one of their stations. I know we've stored our alarm truck up there intermittently when they've been using it in their Station 3 on State Road. It's not something that we use right now for any practical intents and purposes outside of isolated maintenance situations. We go up and get it if we needed it, we could return it there. So my thought is if they were here, they wouldn't be running out the front of the station like they do in District 2, simply because all three of our front bays are occupied with frontline pieces. They would probably be running out of the rear at this point, again, housed in the basement with, as you mentioned, a dedicated phone line, which to this point, to my knowledge, has not been installed. That's not a big deal. But they do have ample time to act on this. They're not looking to come in here until around New Year's at this point.
Is there?
Sounds like there's a lot of questions. Mr. Judson can get answers for us for the next meeting. You write a
Well, I
question.
would prefer to actually have a representative of STAT here if it's something that
Okay.
we're willing to entertain. I think what we're looking for right now is if it's something that you are willing to consider, then we can move forward. If it's something that you absolutely aren't willing to consider and that you people are effectively responsible, do have control of the building per se. So ultimately, it is your decision.
So if we want to entertain it, the questions you brought up about the moving your truck to District 3, you'd have all those answers.
I could, absolutely.
We could have Mr. O'Regan come here at that time.
Isn't that the same time we pull our boat out of the water and it usually has to come inside?
Boat stayed in
This is
outside.
going to be, they're
Boat was in outside storage last year for the majority of the winter.
because they're digging ground now and their station is not going to be done till June.
That's correct. They're not
That's
going to be
correct.
displaced immediately.
In the past 2 winters, the boat has not come inside that I'm aware of.
And we have 2 other vehicles already outside now. The 2 utilities
Yeah, we
are
do.
outside right now.
Yeah. One of those, I'm certain, probably could be housed in the building with the rescue, but I believe the alarm truck, it could happen. I'm not sure. I'm not saying it can't. We'd have to look at that. But like I'm saying is, I would not have an issue with housing that, if possible, at District 3.
Okay.
If in fact they do have accommodations.
My concern when I first heard about it was what effect will this have on the men? And how often is the basement being used? It's our workout room, it's a get-together. I'm under the impression that not too many of the guys use downstairs.
I know it was
too
made
often.
pretty clear through Chief Alcadino in my discussions with him that we would have priority, if you will. They were made aware that we do have exercise equipment, treadmills and so forth down there, and that our personnel would not be displaced, would have full utilization of that, regardless of whether or not they decided to be there. As you're aware, there's no petition there right now.
Right.
To my knowledge, I don't think it's our intention to put one in. As I said, we're not planning on installing any special furnishings down there or anything. They're welcome to bring in whatever they want. We do have couches, we do have chairs, we do have television down there, which they'd be welcome to. But in terms of bunks and so forth like that, they'd be providing their own. Obviously, the rental would cover the increased use of whatever electricity and what goes along with it. But frankly, they would be down there, and the balance of the station would be available for our personnel on a day-to-day basis.
Okay. So I guess what we just need is a consensus vote if we should have a representative at our next meeting to discuss this with us, or if the board doesn't want to entertain this at all.
I feel that we should, I mean, it's that, they're the ones to take care of the people around, so.
Okay.
I mean, depending on is they trying to stay closer to this end of the district, or are they actually, where do they run out? They're running out of 2 right now?
Correct.
Yes.
And what area do they cover? They cover this area?
Yes,
This
they
would
cover
give them
this.
an opportunity to
South.
cover this area closer.
Closer.
Right now,
If they're all the way out of 3.
So this, they'd be closer to like, Sun and Sea and stuff, so it'd give them an opportunity to be closer to the
Right.
people in that area.
I don't see a problem with
I
it.
have, Mr. Harris, what do you?
I think we should entertain the motion.
Okay, I feel for a short term, we can help them and make this work. I don't feel as a long-term situation that we have the room, or that we have the room to expand.
I agree with you there.
But for 4 months, even if there is a slight inconvenience, I think we can make it work for the better of the district in the town. So if you could ask a representative to be here, our next meeting will be the second, as always, the second Wednesday of November, which happens to be the 9th, 7 o'clock here.
It's my understanding that the 4-month span was considered to be sort of the longer end of the range. They do anticipate that it could be
Well,
shorter
maybe
than that
we
per
would,
se.
right, maybe we would vote a maximum of 6 months to give them some leeway. However, I don't want this to turn into 6 years. So, and you can, I guess I feel you can let them know that in advance. And we'll take it up then. You had another, Mr. Sylvia, were you all
That's it,
set?
we
That-
covered it.
That covered it?
Yeah, it was just-
Mr. Harris, did you cover everything?
Yes, and all the questions that Mr. Judson brought up, he'll have the answers for us in regards to where trucks will be displaced, where they'll be for the winter.
Yeah, as I said, the first thing I'll do is we'll make an effort to see if we can accommodate the rescue
Okay.
with the existing vehicles that we have. If not, I'll make calls with the chief of Reuter and so forth, or if necessary, seek alternate locations to house that vehicle. Because I don't really think that should be the deciding factor as to whether or not they're here. But I wouldn't be comfortable leaving that outside throughout the winter.
Okay.
Okay. We have no further business on the warrant, on the posted meeting, so
Motion to adjourn?
second.
Third.
All in favor? Aye. Motion to adjourn, 8:55.